Stephanie. Glad to be with y'all again this week. We're going to sing one song and then I'm going to tell you about a special week that's coming up for the church. So let's start with the whale songs. Everybody ready? Who did swallow Jonah? 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 Who did swallow Jonah down? Who swallowed Jonah? Miss Berkeley, do you know?
The whale.
The whale did. Everybody get your whales. The whale did swallow Jonah. 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 The whale did swallow Jonah down. Good job, everybody. So glad to see y'all again this week. We're going to talk about what's coming up with the church this week. It is going to be Palm Sunday on Sunday. And that's the day that Jesus came to Jerusalem riding on a donkey. So we're going to talk about some things first. So when you think of celebrities, who do you think of? Famous people. Do you think of like the guy who plays 007, or maybe a famous ballerina, or anything that you think of as a famous person? And what do you think about that famous person? When we think about famous people, I'm going to get some pictures and see if you can see them. We think about them having money, and we think about them having fancy cars. We think about red carpets when they do all their fancy TV shows. We think about them dressing all fancy in fancy tuxedos and wearing fancy jewelry and watches. And we think about all those things when we think about rich people and famous people. So we also are not new to this, because even back when Jesus was alive, there were famous people. Jesus was famous. There were kings, and they wore fancy crowns and still had the fancy jewelry.
It's not showing up.
So being a celebrity is nothing new. So everybody knew that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, and they lined the streets, and they were so excited to see Jesus, Hosanna, the King of Kings. And they waved these palm branches.
It's not going to show up.
Berkeley's going to try to focus in.
It's.
They waved palm branches. Maybe Mom or Dad can look those up for you to see. And he came riding in on a donkey. Not a fancy horse, not in a fancy car. He came riding in on a baby donkey. And people were so excited, and they threw their jackets and their robes on the ground for him to walk on as he came into town, and waved the branches and yelled, "Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest." And that's not what we would expect a famous person to come riding in on a donkey. We would expect them to be on a big, gorgeous horse. So Jesus wanted us to know that he didn't come here to be famous and to be rich. He came here to be a servant. So on that Sunday when Jesus came in, and we celebrated as Palm Sunday, now there's more things happening during the week. There's the Last Supper. And the Last Supper is a supper that Jesus had with his disciples right before he was crucified on the cross and died. And during that, he washed his disciples' feet. And usually when you wash feet, that means that you're a servant, because when people were in that time period, they wore sandals if they wore shoes at all, and their feet would get very dirty traveling on the dirt roads. So washing your feet was something people did, and it was a sign of cleanliness. So servants washed people's feet, and Jesus was the one that went and washed his disciples' feet. That's pretty awesome, I think, showing how much of a servant he was. He didn't come to be rich. He didn't come to be famous. Jesus came to die for us on the cross. And this week is the week that we remember and we celebrate Jesus and what he did for us. We should do that every week, but this week even more. And since we can't go to the churches and we can't be around people that and celebrate like that, we need to remember that even though that we're a home and we're just with the few people that live in our house, that we need to remember how special Jesus is. And we need to celebrate this Sunday as Palm Sunday and the coming of Jesus to die for us on the cross. So I hope that y'all study this week and learn more and more about Jesus, and watch out for a post from Miss Stephanie that'll come out through Miss Jennifer and Miss Jessica about writing letters and drawing pictures for me this week. And I can't wait to talk to you again next week, and I'll be giving you that challenge just as soon as they can get it up. I'll talk to you guys later. Love you, miss you. Stay home, stay safe.